Area 52 podcastissa vierailut entinen CIA:n analyytikko John Ramirez on yksi kasvavasta määrästä ihmisiä, jotka eivät voi enää olla puhumatta sotilasteollisen kompleksin ja CIA:n sisällä tapahtuvista asioista.
So I got them a safe and they started getting materials from this working group, compartmented materials on the UFO program. They had to go in a safe. Now, one of my engineers, where I was going with this, Bob, one of my engineers, was looking at one of the manuals. It was that thick. And he left it on his desk, face front, just as you have this folder here. And I was able to read the title. And the title was UFO Propulsion Systems.
Whoa.
Manual of Operations. So if you have a UFO Propulsion System Manual of Operations, that tells me that somebody reverse engineered some craft.
And it's that thick.
All right. So I have that piece of data.
So what happened to that?
I looked at the title. Bob had his back turned. He turned around, saw me looking at the title, immediately grabbed that, placed it front cover down so I couldn't read the cover. Sorry about that, boss. And then immediately put it back into the safe and locked it up.
Oh my gosh.
So I know that they were briefed into something that we already reverse engineered. And it looked dated in the sense that it looked like nothing current. It looked like it was like decades old.
50s, 60s.
Well, I would say maybe not 50s.
Okay.
But maybe 70s, 80s.
Sure.
About that time frame.
Podcastissa hän kertoi muun muassa UFOjen käänteistutkimuksesta ja kuinka kompartmentalisaatio toimii. Hänen alaisensa, josta hän käyttää vain etunimiä, olivat ns. Read in tiettyihin asioihin, josta hän ei tiennyt, mutta sai tietää muuta kautta.
And had I looked into it, had I opened it, I would be charged with a security violation.
Right.
Because Bob would have to,
he would have to report you.
To report me.
But seeing the title was okay?
Inadvertent.
Right.
Inadvertent, and then he took measures to secure the document.
He would have been reprimanded anyways as well, obviously.
Yes.
That is, that's crazy. Is there a part of you that regrets not being read into that, like for your own sort of knowing?
Not at all, because you have a building at CIA headquarters and our many, many outbuildings. We're not just at CIA headquarters. There are several buildings in Northern Virginia that constitute CIA. Not at all, because I would say that being read into it would have prevented me from speaking out. But we are an intelligence agency, and you have intelligence analysts and collectors working there. And what we do best is collect intelligence. So you can be in the building, not read into something, and be able to discern what's going on. If you're very clever about it. There's enough water cooler cafeteria talk that you pick up on things.
Ramirez kertoi muun muassa projekteista liittyen DNA-tutkimiseen, sekä ihmisten että ei-ihmisten.
They were able to collect DNA from aliens. And that's when they discovered, and this didn't happen in 47, happened later. Probably they had tissue samples or whatever that they've stored, and they were able to recover DNA. And when we discovered how to sequence the human genome, we sequenced the alien DNA, and we discovered that, there are markers in there that look very human. Human hybrids. That what looks like an alien has, for some reason, human genetic markers in their DNA, in the genome. And so I found that to be interesting. And to answer your question, that's when I thought, this sounds pretty classified to me.
This is coming from a CIA historian.
His CIA historian, yes. And that was, CIA had a program to trace this alien DNA in certain families in the United States. And he mentioned a particular region that this research occurred in the northeast United States. He won't go any further than that. That certain families, and particularly their children, were of interest to CIA. I didn't know what to make of it back then. But you start talking about the GATE program and subsequent studies of children and their capabilities and their abilities to do certain psionic things. That now comes to my mind since that was brought out more recently.
So the CIA was interested in potentially tracking the activity of hybrids, human-alien hybrids in the United States.
That and going back in their lineage as
in
well.
their lineage.
Right. And going back in their ancestry.
Has there ever been, and feel free to answer this with a one-word answer, has there ever been a situation that you were in where you've gotten confirmation of the government's involvement with human alien hybrids?
Yes.
Okay. And from a credible source, you could say.
Yes.
Okay. So they know about the hybrids.
Yes.
Okay. And you would, I mean, gun to your head right now, you would say absolutely.
Absolutely. Yes.
Wow.
Samaa projektia hybrideistä käsiteltiin myös viime vuoden marraskuussa kongressin UAP-kuulemisessa.
Yes. And so in most instances, if they can't tell us what, do you think at some point they'll at least tell us why?
You know, President-elect Trump has repeatedly committed to greater transparency, both on the UAP issue, on JFK files, on COVID origins, and many other things. So I think that we need to make sure that the next administration is held accountable for that.
Agreed. And this is for all four of you. Yes or no, please. I have many questions I want to get to. Are there any known instances of recovered materials or technologies that are not of human origin and maybe connected to any advanced bioscience defense programs within the USG?
I don't know.
I wouldn't be able to answer that, ma'am.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Okay, so there are rumors that have come up to the Hill of a secretive project within the Department of Defense involving the manipulation of human genetics with what is described as non-human genetic material, potentially for the enhancement of human capabilities, hybrids. Are any of you familiar with that? Yes or no?
No, ma'am.
I am not, ma'am.
I'm not.
No, ma'am.
Kuten monelta muultakin taholta alkaa tulla selväksi, UFO-asian tärkein kysymys on tietoisuus ja miten se ymmärretään.
And so that whole hiding of the capabilities of our human family that have to do with real religare, real religion, to relinking ourselves back into unity with the consciousness of the universe. These are all things that need to also be disclosed.
What is one piece of information that you think everyone should know?
This is where we're going to talk about consciousness. Consciousness seems to be the foundation for the phenomenon. That is how humans perceive the phenomenon and how the phenomenon perceives humans. There seems to be a consciousness aspect to this. Aside from the nuts and bolts, even though UAPs may not have any nuts or bolts on the craft, but we call it that, but the structured craft, aside from the structured craft, that's just physics. That's just mechanical engineering. That's just material science. That can be all figured out. But how it works, there seems to be a consciousness aspect to it that we don't quite understand. And I'm hearing that more and more, particularly the way the phenomenon communicates with certain individuals and the way individuals can communicate with the phenomenon. So you have the human-initiated contact, the heist. You can have that, or using psionics, as Jake Barber's team is doing, to lure the craft down. That's a real thing, because the Russians have already done it.
Skywatcher-ryhmän Jake Barber News Nation haastattelussa vahvistaa asian.
First, let's meet Jacob Barber. Jacob Barber is a dedicated patriot.
Was there any other group that was especially susceptible to being able to engage with this technology?
Yeah, kids.
Children.
Children.
It's been suggested to me that left-handed gay men are particularly good at it.
Yeah, that certainly seems to be the case, that there's a larger distribution of the predisposition amongst children and gay men. For whatever reason, the demographic, when compared to normal society within the program, that gay men and kids and females are more often seen as having the predisposition for the psionic abilities. I think there's more people that believe it. They're just not talking about it. And I can tell you for a fact, even within our world of hardened operators at the highest level, guys that are still in, behind closed doors, we all know it's true, and we have the most emotional talks, like we're part of Oprah's book club. I mean, it's true. And right now we're in a moment where the truth is being obfuscated and twisted. But the truth, I'll tell you, is our weapon. And when we're willing to accept the truth, no matter how profound or earth-shaking, is when we move into a position of power. And it's going to liberate this subject.
3 секунды. 2, 1, 0. Взрыв сопровождался световой вспышкой необычной силы.
Kilpavarustelu Venäjän kanssa värittää koko UFO-asiaa.
And you have the Space Force ballistic missile early warning system. You have something called space situational awareness.
Ramirez, joka työskenteli CIA:n tutkatiedustelussa, kertoo heidän tienneen Neuvostoliiton tutkaohjelmasta, joka oli keskittynyt etsimään epätavallisia kohteita. Ja että ohjelma on käynnistetty uudelleen Putinin hallinnon aikana.
And so I was assigned a particular radar in the Soviet Union that was very unique to the Soviet Union. And we found out that the purpose of the radar was atmospheric anomalous research.
Ooh.
So the waveforms were completely different from any other Soviet air defense system or ballistic missile defense system.
And that you mean that they were made to detect, they weren't made to detect anything that was standard, the wave system that you're referring to?
No, because there were other radars on that test range that were more like what they deployed.
Right.
This system was never deployed operationally other than at this location.
Whoa.
And so this radar to this day is still operational. And it was ignored primarily after the Soviet Union fell. Less and less testing was done, and it wasn't really used that much until about 2016, I understand, that President Putin ordered that this radar system be completely renovated, refurbished, and brought back online.
Wow.
And I believe it is back online based on the overhead photography I was able to see of this particular radar system on Google Earth.
Wow.